Hi, this is Dan Henk. Welcome to another edition of the Skull Sessions. And today my guest is Ed Rosick. Is that correct?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. All right, man. So let's talk about what you got going on.
Yeah, so I got going on my first short story collection. It's entitled Where the Grass Don't Grow and Vultures Sing. It's
Okay.
I call it speculative fiction. I mean, other people would call it horror, but I mean it's a mix. It's mainly horror, but there's some sci-fi elements.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's what they call my stuff, speculative fiction, because it's like sci-fi horror, kind of like a Event Horizon.
exactly.
Not
Yeah,
quite as out of space like that, more like a little more Lovecraft, like multiple dimensions and creatures. But yeah, is that kind of what you're going for?
Yeah, I mean, I've always written more speculative. I mean, some people call me a horror writer, and I guess many of the stories, especially in this collection, are more horror in the horror genre, but they're mixed, I think. I mean, there's that's why for me, I think speculative fiction really covers what I write. It's a better term than just straight horror sci-fi.
Okay, awesome. Does it take place on Earth? It has like incorporations of like cosmic elements,
There is a story that does have some cosmic elements, almost Lovecraftian.
right?
Uh, There's most, if not all most of the stories take place in the state of Michigan. It's where I grew up. I mean, I've lived all over the country, but
Is that where
uh,
you live now?
I live there now. Yeah, ended up, made the full circle, came back to Michigan. So
I
it's
go
just,
there every year for a tattoo convention. Like
oh,
I own
nice,
a shop and I'm sponsored by Eternal Tattoos, and that's their home base. So there's
nice.
like grandiose convention at like I think it's
Yeah.
the Marriott with like the GM showroom and stuff.
Oh,
They
yeah.
pull out all the stops. Yeah.
Very nice. Yeah. So, it's a state that allows, I mean, there's so many things that we have urban areas, we have the Upper Peninsula of Michigan has been described as Eastern Siberia, and that's pretty much right.
There's
Um,
nothing wrong with that.
no, no, not at all. In fact, I think two or three of my stories, a couple of my stories take other stories take place in the UP, and one story actually does take place in Siberia, Russian Siberia. So,
Have
um,
you ever seen that movie Dreamcatcher, based off the Stephen King novel?
yes,
Takes
yes,
place in like a winter wonderland. So that's what that makes me think of, like cosmic horror, like winter in the forest. You know,
absolutely, yeah. So yeah, I mean, the reason I went with the title that I did, the title again being Where the Grass Don't Grow and Vultures Sing, because I think all the stories are they're off kilter stories, right? They take place on Earth,
so
in the
it's
state.
kind of metaphoric, like where the grass don't grow.
Well, yeah, and they're different, right? It's like our world, but not our world. It's like a skewed, like almost alternative dimensions, you could say. They're
Right.
not, but stuff like that. So yeah,
I
my
mean, that might actually exist. If you heard of the
that
whole multiverse concept.
absolutely. And so yeah, there's 12 stories. They range from stories that I wrote, gosh, 20 years ago to stories that I just wrote, 6 months ago. So
Awesome.
there's a good
What's the average length of a story?
that's a great question. Because as I've changed in writing right over the years, my stories have gotten longer. I don't know, maybe I've just gotten more verbose. But I mean, in the collection, there's one story that's probably 900 words. There's another story that's up to about 9,000 words.
Wow. Okay.
There's different links. I've been writing more shorter stories recently, just because I've been writing for a online magazine called Carnage House, and I think their limits up to five. They take like 2,000 to 5,000. So the last few stories I've had published have been around the 3,000 mark.
Yeah, I do an anthology. Well, I do anthologies, and like the last one I did, I remember I was talking to Christine Morgan, and I said, well, I was thinking like 30,000 to 50,000 words. She goes, "Did you mean 3,000 to 5,000?" So apparently that's the average. So I was like, "Oh, okay," because I'd write like longer, short stories. So to me, 30,000 words was what was normal for a short story. But then I
Absolutely.
I kind of edited it, and then like now I write some shorter stories, and all my contributors like will do anywhere from like 2,500 to 9,000 words.
Yeah, and to me that's a nice sweet spot for short stories. I think anything below 2,000 words for me is hard to make it work as a short story rather than just an extended scene. Uh,
Right.
but I've written plenty short stories that are 8 to 10 to 12,000 words, maybe up to 15,000. So
Right. Well, I remember another thing. Like I went to Scares to Cares in Williamsburg, and
yeah,
I was talking to an editor, and like she was like, we were talking about prices and stuff because I have a very awesome editor, but he's also very pricey. you know. So I was talking to her, she's like, oh yeah, well, and she shot me some price that was way below his. And I said, well, my story or my books are usually about like 300,000 words,
yeah,
or 300 pages,
right.
um, and maybe like 320 or whatever. She's like, oh wow. It was like to me, like the era like Stephen King and Dean Arcus and stuff, that was the average. But now apparently the average is like 190 pages.
It certainly has gone down, and I think a lot of that is just people's attention span, right? Over the decades, people's attention spans have gone down. We
It
live
might
in
be.
we live in the age of Twitter and Instagram, man. I mean, it's just you
Well,
know,
that brings up something else I wanted to ask you is like I love stories that have a good backstory. Like I don't know if you ever read Lucifer's Hammer.
yes, oh, absolutely, man.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. But it's the first 100 pages just sets up everyone in the world, and then when that meteor crashes into the earth and everybody, their world goes to shit, you are really invested. Like you know exactly what's going on, and I miss that. Like a lot of ones just seem like they wanted to jump to the action right away, and I'm like, I don't care if that guy dies. I don't know who he is.
Absolutely. I agree with you 1,000%. I mean, I think you really have to set that up. I mean, and if you don't do that, you're right. Who gives a shit if they die? I don't care. I
Right.
but if you're invested in that character and if you're invested in that situation as a reader, I think it's going to make a big difference. So, I mean, writers today that I think do that well, just off the top of my head, because I just finished his last book, is Keith Rosen. He wrote a
Okay.
two, he wrote Fever House and The Devil by Name. I don't know if you've read those.
No, I
That's,
haven't.
oh,
I
you should
mean,
look them up.
there are so many books out there; it's hard to keep up with them. And
It is.
then, I read my own stuff, and I do anthologies. It's like my girlfriend tells me I do too much. But like a lot of the authors I read, like they're kind of I guess they'd be classics now. But like I've read everything by Lovecraft. I'm a big fan of Lovecraft.
Yep.
But like I pretty much read everything by Neil Gaiman. I read everything by Matheson. I read I have my favorites, and I read everything by them.
Yep. No, same with me. I mean, if I find an author I like, I'll read everything and buy them. The way, and I'm like you, I mean, I have far too many things to read. The way I get through that a lot is I download sample chapters on Kindle, right? And so if I'm
I
not
can't read on Kindle. I wish I could, but I can't.
really, yeah, it's not my, I would much rather read a dead tree book, a paper book, but
Dead tree.
But Kindle allows me to read the first two, three, four chapters of a book, and if I'm not captivated in the first three chapters, or at least if I don't like the style of writing, I'm not going to read it. So I can get through a lot more books that way.
No, I hear. I used to be like the mindset of like if I start it, I have to finish it. Even if
Yep.
it's crap, I gotta finish it. And after a while, it's like, dude, there's just not enough time in the day.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, if I don't like it, I'm not finishing it. So Kindle allows me to do that, but I'm like you, I would much rather if I like something, I'll shell out the money and read it. So or buy the real book.
I
So
do think I just want to make a side note to the viewers is like you got to give stuff a chance. People are like, yeah, I read 10 pages and abandoned it. It's like, dude, no. It's a 300-page book. 10 pages in is not going to grab you. Give it a
no.
chance.
Yeah, give it, like I say, three, four chapters. If you're not going to get grabbed in probably those three, four chapters, you're probably not going to be grabbed. And that doesn't mean it's bad writing, it just means it's not for you, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there's writers, people, people love, and they just don't do it for me, you
Right.
know. Um, Stephen Graham Jones, I don't know if you ever read any of his stuff. I mean,
No, I haven't.
he gets a lot of love in the field, and to me, his stuff's hit and miss. Some of his stuff I love, some of his stuff I'm like, it's not doing it for me, buddy. I'm, so
Well, I do a lot of splatter punk conventions, and the way I got into this because I'm also an illustrator, and I've illustrated a lot of like splatter punk magazines and books, and like people are like, "Oh, well, I love your stuff," and they invite me, so I'll go there. But it's like that's not like the authors are really nice, and some of them are really good writers, but that's not my format, and like they all seem to love like Edward Lee. And I don't
yeah.
know if you read Edward Lee's stuff. It's like that is not my style. It's like it doesn't like disturb me. Like now I can't eat. But it's like I'm just like you know, I'd rather something with like a strong buildup, and that to me just feels like it's a gross out.
Yep. Yeah. I've tried reading Edward Lee, and I'm like you. I mean, I think he's a good writer. Don't get me
Yeah,
wrong. It's just not something I'm adverse to. And I mean, if a splatterpunk book is written well and has a good backstory, I'm happy to read it. But it's got to be it's got to be something that grabs me, and like you say, has a good backstory and makes me care about the characters. Because if I don't care about the characters, why should I spend my time?
yeah, no, I definitely agree. And for my anthologies, like I tell everyone, I want to kind of like along the Twilight Zone, Outer Limits, kind of cosmic horror. So a lot of those splatpunk authors will contribute to my anthologies, but they'll orient it more towards that kind of cosmic horror element. So like you can see that they're very good writers. It's like they pick the splatterpunk element, but it's not like that's what they're limited to.
Absolutely. And I think for me, that's one of the reasons I really still like writing short stories is that it's a challenge, right? I mean, how do you make people care about these characters in 2,000, 3,000, even 10,000 words
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah.
versus 300,000, 200, 300,000 novel. So just again, just sort of to challenge myself, and I think all these stories have that. I don't know. We'll find out when the book comes out. But
Well, I think like I know a lot of people like back on Stephen King, like he even called himself like the literary equivalent of a Big Mac and fries. Yeah. But it's like he has very believable characters, and he has like the dialogue is like crisp and on point. He has a little problem with ending his stories sometimes, but you know,
man, yeah, his last few novels, he just does not know how to end it at all, in my opinion.
well,
But I mean,
also there's this sort of thing where you kind of like go through your peak. You might be like past his peak. I don't know.
yeah,
It's like early stuff is my favorite. Like the like Christine and like like Carrie, Firestar, like all that stuff. Like that was really strong. And I remember I read I don't know if you ever read it. It's called Thinner.
yes.
Yeah, so I remember I read Thinner. I was like, that would make a good short story. Unfortunately, he flushed it out into a novel. And so you spend like I think there's one whole chapter. There's nothing but like toilet paper, like talking about the texture of toilet paper. I was like, dude, give it up. Like, put the coke down.
That's exactly right. Yeah, I think that explained a lot about those years of his. But you're right, man. I mean, his Stephen King's early work and his early short stories were incredible.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
no, I totally agree. Yeah.
yeah, 5, 6,000 word short stories, and he had you hooked. I mean, he was something, man. I mean, he was the man back then.
I hate it when like I hate to see people fall off, but I kind of hate when people aren't doing what you loved from them. Yeah, but I mean, what you do, like they gave some classics. So
Right.
let's get back to you. So the collection, the short stories you're putting out, how many stories are encapsulated in that novel?
There's 12 stories. Again, ranging from 900 words to 9,000 words. Um, I mean, the first
So
story,
you have like some kind of like novellas and some short stories kind of incorporated.
yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. I mean, Alone in the Woods in the Deep Dark Night is probably the longest story. That's about 9,000 words. All Hail the Melonheads, that's probably around 9,000 words. then there's other ones. I mean, the first short story, For the Pleasure of the Gods is maybe 2,800 words. So it ranges. Again, it ranges from actually pretty subtle stuff to pretty horrific, not splatterpunk, but there's enough blood and guts there to make people happy. That's what they're looking for. So
Right. Well, what I like, I figure this is for me personally, so everyone has different tastes. But I
right.
figure, like, if it's a strong story and has some like really graphic elements, but it's not like dominated by them, I think that hits you much harder than if the whole thing is, just
A-
like blood and guts in your face.
Absolutely right. You get a nerd to it. It's like, yeah, okay, here's another
Yeah,
here's a
exactly.
yeah, here's another 5 foot of viscera falling out of somebody's gut. Okay.
Well,
Who
the
cares?
other thing is like for instance, I was at a shop and I remember the owner of the shop would like play videos, so we all had to watch them. And I remember I was tattooing somebody who played a Serbian film, which I don't know if you've seen, but I was
Once,
like,
yeah, I wish I never had seen it, but
exactly, yeah. So like I'm watching it and like I don't even like like I wasn't disgusted by it, just like dude, that's a waste of time.
yeah.
So I was like I don't like the premise of it, I don't like the characters, and I definitely didn't like the ending. But it's
Oh,
like, you know,
horrible.
nothing grabbed me. Nothing made me go, "Oh, what's next?" Like the whole thing was like, "When is this over?"
Right. Nope, absolutely. I'm with you 100% on that movie. I wish I would have never watched it, but I have,
Well,
so now I can talk about it.
there's one that I actually watched myself, so I just wanted to warn you. It's called Dead Girl
Yeah, I saw Dead Girl.
with the female zombie that they
Yeah.
strap to a bed, and then
Uh,
they're like raping her, and then she bites one of them. So in that way it was kind of cool, but it was like, dude, you're still fucking raping a girl. I don't care if it's a zombie or not. Yeah,
oh, yeah, it was brutally dark movie. I mean,
yeah.
brutally dark. And I commend the actress who was the zombie. I mean, she did an incredible role. I don't know how she did that role, but she did.
But yeah, just what? I'm not thrown off by somebody putting something in dark, but yeah, I want a good story. But it sounds like we're on the same page there. It sounds like you definitely want to incorporate like something to grab you, and then you have something that pops out, and you're like, "Wow, holy shit, I didn't see you going there."
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and like you, I don't, the gore, the violence doesn't necessarily deter me, but to me, you have to earn it as a writer, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah. That's a good point. Yeah.
we all have our hot buttons, right? I mean, some people can't deal with violence toward children. Some people, like me, can't deal with violence toward dogs. If you're going to kill a dog,
Same here. I agree. Yeah.
if you're going to kill a dog in your story, man, you got to earn that. And very few writers, in my opinion,
Well, I think you said the movie John Wick.
yes. Oh, yeah.
So I think they earned it because like, dude, he gets his revenge.
Absolutely right, something like that. But otherwise, I mean, I've read stories. I won't name the author. He's pretty well known, and I liked him. I had read a few of his books, and he wrote one story. And about halfway in the story, there's a scene of a character that a brand new character halfway in the book, just out of the blue, starts torturing a Labrador Retriever.
Nah.
I said, I'm done. I put the book down, and we'll never read another book by this author again. I mean, because he didn't earn it. He didn't earn it. You don't
Yeah.
earn it. So, but again, it wouldn't bother other people, and that's fine. But for me,
There's a great meme and it has a picture of a dog. It says, if you love somebody, let them go. If you hate somebody, let them go. Let everyone go get a dog.
I've there's been many times in my life I felt like that, Dan. I really
But all right, so what's your book going to be available on? Is it like on all platforms like Barnes and Nobles, Amazon?
that, yep, absolutely. So it's being published through Bainham Books Press, which is a small press, publisher out of England. I don't know how much you work with small presses.
I've worked on and off with a bunch of them.
Yeah,
I started my own publishing company and I kind of put up my stuff. But I've used some are awesome, like Crossroads Press, that they have some of my novels out. They're awesome. I can only say good stuff about them. And before that, I had Purina Press, and they suck. Nobody should ever go to Purina Press. But yeah, it's a mixed bag. Like you have some people like I had a contract with the Nation Books, and I had to sue them to get my books rights back because they were violating the contract, and they were pretty much just like, "Fuck you, we'll do whatever we want." I was like, "Whoa, hold on a minute, I will sue you."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so no, I mean, I have nothing bad to say about them. I mean, I love the publisher and editor, but again, with small presses, it they're not right. It's one or two or three people getting these books out. So the book was supposed to originally be out January 29th. It's now what, February 25th. Uh, oh, and again, that's fine. I understand it 100% because with the
Well,
small,
as long as they're trying to do their best. If they're just
absolutely.
blowing it off, like, yeah, whatever, there'd be a
No,
problem.
yeah, no, they're not blowing me off. So I'm hoping I just sent back the latest edit on the last proof. So I'm hoping next month it'll be out. And when it comes out, it'll be out on all platforms, right? Amazon, Barnes and Noble. People can go to my website, edrosick.net, and it'll be available there. So yeah, it'll be available as a paperback and ebook. So.
Okay. Are you gonna do any author conventions to help promote it?
I'm thinking about it. I mean, I'm looking at some horror conventions here in the Midwest in the next six to 8 months. So I'm going to do that. Doing podcasts like yours, do some radio interviews, newspaper in Detroit's hopefully gonna set me up for an interview. So stuff like that. Yeah, I love doing that stuff.
Okay, I do a couple conventions. I found that the KillerCon is really good for me.
Okay.
It's in
Yep.
Austin, Texas. It's in August.
Yeah.
Um,
Write that down.
so yeah, I would like I remember the last time I went there, and this is key. I did a book reading. So I'd done it like 3 times. I'm like,
Mhm.
yeah, I'd sell a little bit, And then I did a book reading, I sold out.
Really?
So
That's good to
book
know.
reading, that's the key. Yeah.
Okay,
Um,
cool.
Texas Author Convention in Dallas is also good,
Okay.
and that's in July. Um,
Okay.
I sold there. I didn't sell quite as much, but it's very busy, very well attended, and a lot of like social connections, a lot of people that you talk to, and I
Yeah.
mean, I love like signing people's stuff.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, like if people want to buy a signed copy from you, do you have a website?
Yep. So my website is www.edrosick, that's one word, edrosick.net. So it'll be up on there as soon as it comes out from my publisher. And yeah, it's a basic website, but I put up free stories for people to read and stuff like that, and let them know what's going on. So
Do
yeah,
you have any like extra treats like bookmarks or stickers or I
I
know a lot
don't
of indie comic people make like plushies and stuff.
know. That's a good idea. I probably should do that. I,
Yeah, I found stickers don't go as fast, but I made magnets and they sold out. People love magnets apparently.
Huh, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely could do that. So the both so I have a horror novel out. It's called, well, it's kind of out. It's called Deep Roots. But like you, I had a small press publisher that it didn't work and had a really hard time getting monies from them, and eventually they went defunct. So they're
Yeah.
out of business. So fortunately, I got all the rights back to the book. Um, but that book is no longer available. But be that as it may, both the cover to that book and the cover to Where the Grass Don't Grow and Vultures Sing, the artistry work was done by my daughter, who's an artist.
Okay,
So
awesome. Yeah.
that would be cool to have her do some magnets. That would be. I got to think about that.
I give the bookmarks aren't super expensive, so I print up a bunch of them to give them out for free at
Yeah,
conventions. The magnets are a little bit pricier, so I sell them,
you
but
do.
they go like hotcakes.
That's great to know. Thanks. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Cool. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to some conventions, like I say, more podcasts and stuff like that, because I really like this collection. I think like I say, it's a good mix of stuff, of my stuff, right? As writers, I mean, you're a writer. We all, when we start out writing, we all try to emulate somebody else, right? We all try to write like Stephen King or whoever. But as we
You're finding your way, yeah.
we
And
find a lot of,
actually, I listened. There's a Stephen King. It's like a seminar, but it's like a book seminar, like an audio seminar,
yeah,
and it's like I think 6 hours long or whatever. But he has a lot of great tips. But you don't have to be Stephen King to like take what his advice.
right, right. And so after a while, we get our own voice, right? Dan Henk has his voice. Ed Rosick has his voice. So I think these stories in Where the Grass Don't Grow and Vultures Sing really encapsulate my voice, how I write, right? And people might dig it and they might read it and say, "Wow, we don't like that." And that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that.
Another thing I found, the last thing I'll add in, but I found that what really works is if you do like a free Kindle promotion on
Oh,
Amazon, and you can do it for like anywhere from like 1 to 5 days.
yeah,
But I found that a lot of people will check it out if you don't, if it's free. And
yeah,
then I found like my last anthology I put up there for free. Um, so the I had another guy help me edit the like format of the cover and stuff, and he misspelled Rod Sterling from Twilight Zone's name. It was Rod Sterling instead of Rod Sterling. So I mean, it's fairly minor, and I corrected the minute I saw it. But I remember the guy went on a rant, give me like a 1-star review. It was like, you obviously don't do horror. This is a disgrace to Rod Sterling's legacy. All this stuff, you know. But so then I was like, well, up until that point, I gotten all these high reviews. So like, I made a free promo. I'm like, hey, please just leave me a review, you
right.
know. And not only did it jump up in sales, but after the promo ended, people kept buying it. Like to this day, they're still buying it. So
Really?
that might be a good tip for you.
That's great to know. I will definitely talk to the publisher about that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. We'll
Awesome. Well, do you have anything else you want to throw out there? Oh, one thing I always ask people is like, people hate to compare this stuff to somebody else, but if you had to say, hey, if you like this guy's stuff, you'd like my stuff, what would you say?
um boy, probably the two authors, not that I'm in their league, but would be uh Joe Lansdale and
Oh, he's
Jason.
awesome. Yeah. I
Yeah,
met
J
him. He was at AuthorCon. That's
Oh,
another
really?
reason you should
Oh,
go.
yeah,
Yeah.
Texas. Right. Yeah. So Joe Lansdale and Jason Pergin, who does
Okay.
who did the Dave Dies at the End series.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Now I knew who he is. I didn't know at first. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, well he started writing Dave Dies at the End as Jason Wong, um, or David Wong, but then he started using his own name. So
Okay.
those would probably be the two characters, the two people the most. I mean, Keith Rosen, maybe some, the guy that wrote Fever House and The Devil by Name.
Are
But
you a fan of Madison and all? Like Stir of
love,
Echoes and I Am
love
Legend and
read all of Matheson's, absolutely. Read
yeah, I
all,
figured he's an OG.
yeah,
Yeah.
gee, absolutely he is. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love the all the original old ones, but yeah, so probably those guys. But again, people have described my work as gritty, urban, raw, and that's pretty close. I mean, I'm not Hemingway. I wish I was, but I'm not. But I think I have
I
a
think
pretty
Hemingway died broke. In fact, like what I always tell people when with my books is like, I'm like, I'll sign it and it's gonna be worth money when I'm dead. Because that's
exactly.
the way it always works. It like Edgar Allan Poe died drunk in the gutter, Lovecraft died of cancer, and they're all broke.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I don't want to die broke, so I guess
How
it's
rich would Lovecraft be if he was alive today?
oh a billionaire. A billionaire. Yep.
But all right, man. So anything else you want to throw out there?
No, I hope people go at least check the book out. If they like it, buy it. If not, again, that's okay. It's all everybody's got different tastes. I certainly realize
That's what
that.
he's saying. You should buy his fucking book. All right, man. Well, thank you
Hey,
very much for
oh,
doing this podcast.
thank you, Dan. Thanks for having me on. It's been great talking to you. Hope we can do it again one day.